Good evening and welcome to episode 88 of the Jacksonian. I'm yours truly, Jackson Johnson, and I'm here with the writer of Blogging with the Boys at SB Nation, the writer for FSU Wire, and co-host for Florida State, the voice of college football, the one and only himself, Matthew Lenix. As we'll be going over quite a lot about the Florida State Seminoles and the Dallas Cowboys throughout the 2025 season and much, much more. Let me tell you something, folks. You're going to be in for a wild ride. How you doing today, good buddy?
I'm doing fine. How about you, man?
I'm doing all right. Just one more week till Thanksgiving. Exactly, just one more week, and it's gonna be a feast, feast, feast for football and all of that. Oh
Yes,
man,
sir. Yes, sir.
I'm just getting excited thinking about all these awesome games on Thanksgiving and on Black Friday and on Rivalry Week Saturday next week.
hmm Yes, sir.
But for those who don't know about you and the magic that you produce, should I tell the audience a bit about yourself?
Originally, born and raised in Camden, South Carolina. Spent a little bit of time. Well, I spent one semester my sophomore year in Atlanta with my mom, but other than that, born and raised there. Spent some time right outside the Boston area in Lawrence and Lynn, Massachusetts. Two different stints up there. They equaled about a year both, but I moved to the Dallas area in July of 2014. So I've been here in Arlington for 11 years, almost 12 now. And I had a bunch of jobs, but once 2018 was winding down, I realized that I was tired of having jobs. I wanted a career, and I started thinking about like, what do you really love to do? What is it that you're passionate about? And of course, it's sports. It's always been sports since I've been a little kid. So, whether it was starting off with professional wrestling when I was 3 years old, or, I played on my first sports team, which was baseball, when I was 7. And then I started playing football when I was 9. So I've always been heavy into sports. And, I'm like, well, obviously I'm at an age at, 34 at the time that, I can't, play professionally. So what better to do besides playing than to write about it? Now, I actually wrote my first article in 2014, and I sent it to a great friend of mine. You know who he is, Patrick No C Walker, the writer for the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh wow.
And yeah, he and we've been personal friends since 2013. So we have a personal relationship. Like I know him really well, and
Wow.
he was, doing this thing over at, 247 and, CBS. And, I sent him an article via Twitter, and he told me that, you have a really good foundation. Of course, you need some, it needs to be spruced up, you need work, but you have a really good base. Just keep going. And that was in 2014, but I didn't stick with it. I just kept like starting it, then I'll stop, starting, I'll stop. It'd just be these big gaps, 6, 8 months here, a year there. But finally, when December 2018 came, I said, you know what? Like, I'm gonna really go for this because this is what I really want to do. And I just kept hearing him say, well, not say, he wrote it, but I'm hearing it in my head, like, you have a good foundation, keep going. And he's the writer that I respect the most out of anybody. Um, Obviously because I know him personally, but he's just so great at what he does. He's my inspiration. Even though he's only 4 years older than me, he's my big brother, and I just kept hearing that. So, one day he messaged me. He said, "Hey man, me and a couple of my old writing buddies were over here at Texas Live, which is right down the street here from the Cowboy Stadium, right here where I live." He said, "If you want to come hang out with us, come." So I came and I met them, and I just told him, "Hey man, I'm really about to pursue this. Like I'm not gonna stop no more. I'm going for it." He said, "I don't know why you ever stopped anyway." And so, of course, we laughed about that. But he said, "Look, I'm going to be honest with you. It's a lot of work, and you have to be dedicated, but it's worth it." And he just gave me the lowdown, and I just decided that I wasn't going to stop, and I downloaded the Word Press app. and I just started writing my own articles and coming up with my own little catchy titles to get people to look at them. And I was putting them on my old Twitter and put them on Facebook, and they were getting good reaction. And actually, I was doing that before I met them, so I had been doing it for a couple months because when we met, I think it was January or February 2019,
Wow.
and I hadn't got a gig yet or anything, but he saw that I was putting stuff out there. He said, "Yeah, man, I don't know why you ever stopped," and stuff like that. But um, and then I just kept doing that for months and months, and then it was around the end of May going to June of 2019. I saw that Inside the Star. Shout out to Bryson Treese, the guy who runs that over there. Shout out to him. Um, I went to their site, and you could apply to be a writer, and I applied to be one, and I didn't hear back for a few days, but I was following a guy, John Thomas, John Williams over at the what is it, Locked On Sooners. He does the
Oh
podcast
yeah,
for them.
Locked On Sooners and
Yes,
Sooners
sir.
Wire.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, that's another really good friend of mine. Because he's only like a year older than me, so I hit him up and I said, "Hey, man, I know you write for Inside the Star, and I applied to be a writer, but I haven't heard anything." He said, "Just be patient." And literally later on that same day, I got a message from Bryson, and he said, "Hey, I can't make you a staff writer right now, but I can try you out as a junior writer. And if you succeed there, then we can bump you up to a staff writer, and then you can make a little bit of money." He's like, "It's not, anything where you can quit your job. It's just, maybe a couple $100 a month, some nice little, pizza money, little bill money here and there, pay your little cell phone or something," which I was totally fine with. I just want to get my foot in the door anyway. So I wrote for about 2 weeks. And you got to remember, this is June now, so we're about a month out from training camp. And he was like, "Hey, if you show improve by training camp, we'll make you a staff writer." So this was still in June, and I had, you know, um, I had just went out to Vegas,
Wow.
and I had came back. I was with this old Cowboys group I went to, and I was with. We actually had a big mansion party weekend. I was at a mansion for a weekend out there in Vegas, and when I came back, um, he hit me up and he said, "You know what? Like, we don't need to see anything else. Like, you're ready now. Like, we're gonna make you a staff writer now." So about a month before training camp, I was already a staff writer, making a little bit of money. And my first professional article came out June 12th, 2019, and it was about Donovan Wilson, safety from Texas A&M, who's still a part of our team now. And then 2 weeks after that, I got a gig with NGSC Sports. Shout out to Ralph Garcia, my old boss, who put me on there. And then, I had 2 gigs within 2 weeks. And then by the end of that season, I was covering a Division II national championship game uh, in McKinney, Texas. And, I got to watch, Trey Lance and all of them, play in the Division II national championship game. And, and then, a little bit after I got on those 2 gigs, I always been a fan of KD Drummond over at Cowboys Wire. I just thought he was an excellent writer. He's the manager editor over there and stuff. And I actually hit him up to ask him, did he have anything, available for the season? Because the season's about to come up in September. I've been writing for a few months professionally. I felt like I was in a really good groove. And I just, I wanted to get as many opportunities as I could. And so like he read my message, and then literally like the next day, Patrick Walker, he had his first video for CBS HQ, and it debuted, and I watched it live, of course, and I called him on the phone. I was like, "Hey man, great video." And he said, "Man, I appreciate it." But he said, "Hey, you actually hit up KD Drummond yesterday, didn't you?" And I was like, how did you know that? I didn't tell you that." He's like, "Come on, man. He's my guy. So when you message him, he hit me up and asked me about you, like what's up with this guy?" And he told me, he said, "Hey man, he's been at it hard for about 6 months. He's got a couple gigs. He's really talented. He has a bright future." And so KD didn't follow me back on Twitter. And without even saying it, I kind of knew that that 2019 season was kind of like my audition for him. You know what I'm saying? So once the season was over, if you remember, that was when we hired Mike McCarthy to be our coach.
Yep.
So when January 2020 came, he DM'd me. He said, "Hey, these are the three positions I have open. Pick one that you want." And I told him that, hey, I want to be, because he had it was like a draft guy. Then it was a couple other spots, and the one I picked was, of course, just being like a regular contributor. And he said, "Hey, well, they're about to have Mike McCarthy's press conference, so watch it live and do a write up on it and send it in." So I'm literally writing while I'm watching the press conference.
There you go.
So literally right after Mike McCarthy put the headphone in and he walked off, I emailed my piece to him.
That is
So
awesome, man.
yeah, so the very next day I wake up and I'm starting my day or whatever, and I get this Slack message. I'm like, Slack? I'm like, what is? And I looked and it said KD added you to the group, and that's when I that next day I officially got brought on with Cowboys Wire. So yeah, so yeah, man, that was like, I mean, all of my opportunities meant the most. I mean, inside the Star, that one will always be the most special because that was my first one. And then NGSC Sports got me to be in the booth and cover, our college national championship game. Even if it was Division II, it's still a championship game. You know what I'm saying? You get to be in a booth and you got this you got a lanyard and you got your pass and you got a little, little thing with your name on it. You can say that. Like I felt like, I was, you kind of felt like professional. You know what I'm saying? So then when I got the gig with Cowboys Wire, that one was when my confidence went through the roof. I said, okay, like I've been doing this for, you know, 5, 6 months now, and I've already got 3 gigs. And of course, I'm not making big money or anything, but I was only getting paid for one, but I didn't care. It was just the fact that I got on, and then I wrote for all 3 of those sites for the next 2 years, and then shout out to A to Z Sports, shout out to Austin Stanley and Zach Bingham over there. And also shout to Skywalker Steel. I don't know if you're familiar with him, the Skywalker Unleashed show.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he also does the Cowboys Collective with Foots the
I'm
King and Law Nation and John Machota, who writes for the Athletic. They all have a show. So me and Sky, knew each other. And he was like, "Hey, man, I actually talked to the bosses about trying to get you on there." And so they sent me an email, and I had a Zoom call with them for about 45 minutes. It went absolutely great. And then I think about close to a week later, we had another one, and that's when they hired me. So, when you got with A to Z, they wanted you to write exclusively for them. So of course, I had to hit up all my other places. Hey, man, I got this great opportunity. I have to, say goodbye. And that was hard for me because I loved everywhere I wrote at. But of course, you got to take steps, whatever. And then, I got with A to Z Sports. That was February 2022. And then I ended up writing for them for a year and a half. And actually, a year later, in February 23, that's when I became full time, and that was my full time job. I got to start working remote. That was just the greatest thing in the world because my dream had really come true. I always wanted to work remote and earn my living that way because I like to travel and do things. And then, by uh, August of 2023, my time with A to Z came up and I was a free agent. And then, I remember when I called my mom and told her that we had parted ways, she kind of got freaked out. And I said, "Mom, don't worry about anything. I know too many people in this game. I won't be unemployed long." And literally about a week later, shout out to Jess Navarez, who used to do Girl Talk, Boy Talk. She used to work with RJ Ochoa. Shout out to RJ Ochoa with Blogging the Boys. I got hooked up with him, and next thing you know, I was being added to another Slack with Blogging the Boys. And then literally a few days after that, I also got a writing gig with Pro Football Network. So, and I had just moved into my apartment that I'm in right now, and the Pro Football Network gig only lasted about a month. They told me that it could be temporary, but I didn't care because I always want opportunities. That's what it's all about. But then I ended up being full time blogging the boys, and then you know uh, that's when the dream really came full circle because January 2024. Shout out to my man Patrick Kahn, who's with the
DC.
yes sir, yes, shout out to PC. And this was 2 years prior when he got on over at the Wire. He said, "Hey man, when we open a Florida State site, I'm coming to get you." He said, "So just be ready when I call you." I say, "You don't have to say another word," because I'm already thinking like the opportunity to write for the Cowboys and Florida State simultaneously. As a diehard fan of both of them for over 30 years, like what's better than that? So again, John Williams, shout out to John again. Of course, John's with the College Wire too. He screenshotted a tweet from Patrick Surgeon. Shout out to Patrick Surgeon, and
Urge.
he put out that they were getting ready to launch Florida State. I think it was UCLA and a couple other sites. He said, "Hey man," and he had like, "Hey, this is the emails. Send your stuff." And of course, I mean, I dropped everything I was doing at the moment. I went and got 5 of my best pieces I recently rent. I sent them over there, and next thing you know, FSU wire comes, and I was just over the moon. Like I had actually done it. Like now I'm writing about the Cowboys and Florida State simultaneously. So that's what I've been doing since January 2024, as far as both the Cowboys and Florida State, and it's been um, I mean, I can't even really put into words what it means to write for both of them simultaneously. Whether they're doing good or not, of course, I want them to do good, but just to be able to, put out, my thoughts to the world about my two favorite football teams, you just can't get better than that. So that's my writing journey. From 2000, the end of 2018 to now, 7 years. It'll be next month. Um, Actually, the day was December 7th when I wrote my first article on WordPress. December 7th, 2018, and that was a day that I started and I never stopped. And here we are now. You fast forward, and I think I've got about 8,000 or so articles that have been published the last 6 years plus. So
Nice.
yeah, and that's where we are now. So
There you go, man. And you're making magic all over the place on Blogging with the Boys, FSU Wire, and you're a magician on Florida State Voice College Football. Although, I think you're going to see Matthew with a new co-host real soon on Florida State Voice College Football, and that's going to be
can't
a
wait.
wild ride and a fun ride.
Yes, sir. Can't wait. Can't wait to get back.
Oh man, it's going to be awesome. But that's a perfect segue to the Florida State Seminoles because, like, this season, it had a great start. You defeat the Alabama Crimson Tide, and you're on top of the world. But then it's just basically been tumbling down like the definition of a Martin Scorsese movie, where it's like losing to Virginia Friday night, losing to Miami, then losing to Pitt, which not only basically knocks you out of any shot you guys have at an ACC title, but basically a shot at the playoffs. But then it's like Stanford gets lucky against Florida State. That was an ugly finish for Florida State right there. And then smack Wake Forest off face to earth. Not looking so good against Clemson. But then you defeat Virginia Tech. And now Friday night is the battle for bowl eligibility. I don't think anybody had that happening in the preseason that, Florida State, North Carolina State are fighting for bowl eligibility. It's just, it's going to be another missed opportunity for Dave Doreen in North Carolina State in another big game. I mean, how have you viewed Florida State for 2025 this year?
Well, of course, coming off the 2-10 debacle 2024, you have to kind of reset your expectations because they were so high coming off a 13-1 year, going undefeated in the regular season. But with such a low floor, you have to kind of bring things down a little bit. So, and I've told you this before, I was always like, you go 2-10, if they could somehow flip that to maybe an 8-win season, that would be a big improvement. I didn't have us being a national championship contender. I wasn't even thinking about the playoff, to be honest with you. I'm like, if you can go down that far and then flip it back and add 6 wins the next year, that would be a good year. So, like I said, we come out and when we did the preseason show about Florida State and Alabama,
Oh yeah.
you remember I said that I felt like either we were going to win a close one or you guys were going to pretty much handle us pretty good. But and when you guys drove down the field, that big long drive and scored the first drive of the game, I was like, oh boy, like that's classic Bama. Y'all look like the Bama that we all know. But when they responded the way they did, and physically won on the line of scrimmage and controlled the rest of the game, don't get me wrong. I mean, I felt really really good about it, but I also didn't want to let it blind me because it was just one game. And you remember I told you I said this is the perfect time for us to play Alabama because it's the first game of the year. Like if we had played y'all and it was in October, I wouldn't have felt as confident. But you know what I'm saying? But the fact that it was the first game, I'm like, if you can get any kind of upset, this would be the time on the first game. And then they did that. But I also knew that they had East Texas A&M and Kent State after that, which I knew they were going to win those games. And so I knew we were going to be 3-0. But I saw a lot of the fan base, not everybody, but a lot of them like really starting to smell themselves. I said, guys, let's bring it down just a tad. We just scored 140 points in 2 games and put up 1,500 yards. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not gonna happen every week. And now we're about to start the ACC schedule. So the Virginia game comes, and I actually wanted them to start having some tough battles, and I knew the ACC was going to bring that. But I had us beating Virginia. You know, I didn't have us losing that game. But we came out very flat. A lot of penalties. We looked terrible against the run. Our tackling was atrocious. The play calling was questionable. Then of course, and to lose in the fashion we did, where you're in overtime, and you look like you just caught the game, possible tying touchdown, but it's juggled, and then you have the last play and it gets knocked down. It's like, okay, you lost that one, got to put it behind you, because then we had Miami the next week, and that was the reason why I didn't want to play bad in that game, because we had Miami the next week. I wanted us to be clicking on all cylinders, and after playing a decent opponent going into Miami. And then the Miami game comes and it's more of the same. And then that's when I think the reality started to set in, like, okay, like this is more of what I kind of thought was going to happen at some point. But I did not have us losing the Pitt, and I certainly did not have us losing to Stanford. So once we got to 3 and 4, I knew that the recruiting was going to take a hit, just like it did in 2024. We lost, you know, Myron Charles, and we lost, C.J. Wiley, and Dalen McCutcheon, and all those guys. Those guys went to Texas, and you cover Alabama. Just losing affects recruiting. It doesn't matter what the brand is. Once you start losing, that's just what it is. And then and it sucks, but um, it's just part of what goes with sports. You just never know. You're just a fan and you root for them, and at the end of the day, they control what happens on the field. And we have talent. Mandrill Desir is one of the best freshman defensive linemen in the country. He's playing out his mind right now. His twin brother Daryl, he's also very very good. I think those two, the Desir twins, are probably priority number one in the off season. Like, make sure you retain these guys. because they're a foundational piece. Also with Kevin Wynn, who he's been injured this year as a freshman, but number 55, the defensive tackle we got, one of our highest rated guys in the 25 class. Guys like that, those are foundational pieces. So I hope we keep them. But yeah, man, it's been a roller coaster. You win 3, you lose 4. You know what I'm saying? Then you win, then you
Up
lose, and
and
then you
down
win.
like a stock
Yeah,
market. It's like,
exactly. And it's the
and the
perfect recipe for being
players
5-5.
and the players just laughing and gossiping and mocking Coach Norvell to one another anytime he says the word process. That's a terrible look. I mean, it's
Yeah, and then we had our defensive back, Edwin Joseph. After we lost to Clemson, he actually put out a laughing emoji, and it just set everybody off. It's like, dude, like not only did we lose, but you didn't play well. Like you didn't have a good game. So to see him do that, it's just it makes you wonder what's going on with the culture. Like, you got, guys like Antonio Cromartie, who was a great player for us in the early 2000s. He's been very vocal on Twitter about there's a lot of guys in the program that are there for what Florida State can do for them as opposed to being there and being about football. And that's a lot of what it's feeling like, that we have to get back to having guys that actually want to be at Florida State, want to win at Florida State, and take pride in the spear and the garden gold, and and so I'm hoping that we get back to that. They're in a funny spot because you know the kids actually really love Mike Norvell,
yeah,
because Mike Norvell is a guy that he cares. I truly believe, and even the people that don't care for him that much, they believe that he cares about them outside of football. Like he wants them to be successful men in life. So that's why the kids ride for him so hard. And don't get me wrong, that's all well and good. Those are great qualities to have, but at the end of the day, this is a results business. And, he's been here, this is 6 year. And if somehow we end up with a losing record, that'll be 3 out of 6 years that you've been below 500. And right now, your record as a head coach here is 38 and 32.
that's
Like,
bad.
yeah, you know, I mean, you gotta think I grew up watching them in the '90s. I mean, the first 8 7 8 years I was a fan. We went to what was it? Let's see, '93. Yeah, we went to 4 or 5 national championship games. We won 2 titles. We were in the top 5 every year. So there's a standard at Florida State, and you know, we got back to it under Jimbo. And don't get me wrong, Norvell had a rocky start, and then he had the 10-3 season in 22, and you come back with 13-1. That's more Florida State standard. But um, when you don't develop well and you don't recruit well, it doesn't matter what university you're at. You're not going to produce well in the field. And that's the frustrating thing right now for the fans, is that guys aren't getting developed, and there isn't more of an emphasis on recruiting. Like I don't see Norvell as a good recruiter. I think
Yeah,
he's a really good. I think he's a good guy. I think the effort is there. I think his heart's in the right place, but the emphasis on recruiting is not there, and we're too transfer portal dependent.
yes, he's
Way too transfer portal dependent.
way too reliant on the portal.
Yeah.
It's just, you don't want, and in this day and age, you want to get reliant on the portal, but you don't want to be overly reliant on the portal because, as you
Mm.
said, it's bad to be overly reliant on the portal. But it's you want to have a little bate chocolate like with Durham Boots, where they're just like, have a little bit of the recruiting trail and have a little bit of the portal. Just mix
Yeah.
everything up, and you're good to go. That way, you're not overly reliant on one thing or the other. You want to be
Right.
smart about it, and it that's a negative for Norvell, but also you did state the positive is he has a great off-field chemistry with the players, because they love him. He loves talking to them, and they love talking to him.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I think that part right there is going to be key to Norvell getting that vote of confidence for 2026. Because it's like if we haven't heard anything by now on his status for 2026, he's returned for 2026. And secondly, I don't think Florida State wants to be throwing their hat into the ring of the Lane Kiffin sweepstakes. They do not want to be compete with Florida LSU. I feel like
Yeah,
next year is better. Like if you're going to be considering firing Norvell, it would have to be after 2026. I mean, yeah, that's a big buyout, but are big buyouts
right,
really stopping teams from firing coaches? No, it
right,
didn't stop Penn State. It didn't stop
right,
LSU, and it didn't stop Texas A&M.
right.
Like buyouts mean nothing in this day and age, and I don't
No,
even think contracts mean anything in the world of sports. And it's just it's bizarro world, I tell you. But I think Florida State, I could see a reality to where if things go south for Dabo and Clips, and maybe this is just me, but the downhill part of the Bowden era from '01 to '09 and the downhill era of 2021 to right now for Clemson are very, very similar. And I could
hmm
see Clemson and Dabo having a mutual parting ways after 2026. I could see Miami getting sick and tired of just losing in November with Mario Cristobal. And if Florida State winds up coming up short yet again, like, I mean, 7-5 will save you this season. I don't see
right.
7-5 saving you after 2026. That's just not
No,
happening. I could see something where Florida State, Miami, and Clemson are coach shopping because they don't want to get beat by James Franklin and Virginia Tech. So they're going to do everything in their power to strike with the irons hot.
yeah, yeah, and it's crazy because over the last week I've seen some tweets about Dabo in Florida State, and as but that would be like like you said, probably better to wait another year to do that. But you know, Dabo. One thing I can say about him, Dabo can recruit.
He can.
That's that's one thing he can do. He recruits the state of Florida well. From South Carolina, he has a lot of Florida guys, and we've lost out on some guys, to him. So, um, and me, hey, I might not like you when you play for a rival, but if you can help us and you come here, I mean, Dabo, I would actually welcome, if he was to, leave there and to come here. But you know, the thing with Mike is, and I try to get people to understand because he does have a lot of support in the fan base too. Um, a lot of people don't want to give up on him. I'm like, look, I understand that, especially after the 23 season. We felt like we had our guy. We went 23-4 over a 2 year span. You know, we we were one of the to me, you know, we were one of the top 4 or 5 teams in the country in 2023. Like without that, especially with a healthy Jordan Travis. Like if he doesn't get hurt, I think we're in the playoff. They did guarantee we were going to win it, but we were right there with anybody. And our defense could have went up against anybody and gave us a chance that year. With Jared Verse and Brendan Fisk and Zari Thomas and all those guys. But it's just at Florida State when you look at a almost 2 year span now. At any time in Florida State, and you put up a record of 7-15, that is just not good. I mean, Florida State would lose 12, 15 games in a decade. You know what I'm saying? Like it would take a decade for us to get 12 losses. You know what I mean? Like we were losing at most one game a year. Every now and again we had a couple of 2-10 seasons sprinkled in there, but we were 11-1, 12-1, consistently under Bobby Bowden. For those 15-year stretch from and the 14-year stretch from '87 to 2000. So there's just a certain way that you have to be here and you know, we're we're longing to get back to that standard. Um, we all thought it was Mike, and like I said, I like him personally, but I just don't think that he has all the tools in the toolbox to get it back. I mean, you guys coach, Kellen DeBoer, to me, he has more of the tools in the toolbox than Mike does
Yeah.
because guys are developing and, even though, 9 wins at Alabama is below standard, which tells you where their standard is,
Yep.
because 9 wins for most schools, oh man, we won 9 games. Like that's like hip hip hooray. At Bama, it's like it's not bad, but it's you
Not good.
know, yeah, it's also not good either. It's kind of in the middle, but you guys are developing guys. You guys are putting guys in the league. And he can recruit. You guys haven't had a drop off in recruiting after losing Nick Saban. You still getting top 5 classes. Guys are still, heavy, even though people rely too much on star ratings, but just for the sake of, talking about, flooding 4 and 5 star guys in every year, that's just it's still not a problem for Alabama. So that's a testament to him following, as far if you want to talk about success, the greatest coach that's ever coached in college, and Nick Saban. Of course, for me being a Florida State fan, I'm taking Bobby Bowden against anybody any day of the week, no matter who it is. But Nick Saban took college football to a completely different level as far as coaching when it comes to the standard of winning. And like I've told you personally, when I'm not watching Florida State, if an Alabama game is on, I have Alabama going. We got the multi view now, and if there's 3 or 4 games I want to watch, like and Bama's playing, like Bama is going to be one of those teams that I'm watching because I have a ton of respect for greatness. Like I'm a fan of greatness. I watched the Cowboys dynasty in the '90s. Like I said, the Florida State, dynasty in the '90s. We were the winningest team in the decade. We won 89 to 90% of our games. So I appreciate greatness. And Nick Saban he was standard. You knew every year if you were going to win the championship, you're going to have to go through Bama at some point. Whether if you were in the SEC trying to win the championship and making it there, or if you made it there, likely you were probably going to have to play Alabama. So ton of respect for that program. After he had been down, from the early '90s, with Stallings and all, after they won the championship in '92, and that was a great Bama team. That '92
Nine.
squad.
Oh
Yeah, yeah,
man, the famous non-play in the history of college football, the best non-play.
mhm,
George T. grabbing the ball from behind, and Keith
right.
Jackson getting all excited, the whole nation getting excited. Like,
Rest in peace, Keith Jackson.
oh man, the
Yeah,
voice of college football right there.
literally the voice of college football. He is. I always said Keith Jackson was to college football what John Madden was to the NFL.
Oh man, it's like I remember having like those Keith Jackson VHS tapes where he talked about Alabama winning the national titles in the Wallace Wade era, the Frank Thomas era, and the Bear Bryant era. And he had like that famous 1992 season recap with Gene Stallings where they were talking at Coach Stallings' ranch and all the horses and just like it was fun, like watching that recap and how
Yeah.
Coach Dodd said we're gonna try to repeat what we did from 1992 in 1993. And then you
Mhm.
had the little famous production music of the slow motion, everybody being all happy in the Sugar Bowl.
Hmm.
Oh
Yeah,
man,
yeah. And see me, of course, you know,
I want Florida State Miami documentary.
oh yeah, me too. I've been longing for that. So especially once the 30 for 30s came out, those specials, the youth specials, which I hated that they were so good because I can't stand Miami, but the specials actually were good. And the fact that they shouted us out a little bit, like me and you talked about how they said that you know they had a ton of respect for us because unlike Florida, we weren't scared to schedule them every
Exactly.
year. You know what I'm saying? We
Florida's
actually said
scared of Miami.
right, exactly. So
Ugh.
we had no problem playing Florida and Miami every year because it's just fun and getting back to
If
Keith
Josh
Jackson.
Tate, oh, sorry,
Say it
if
again.
Josh Tate ever becomes college football commissioner, or whoever becomes college football commissioner, I'm going to see to it that I push for a position where I get to control all the schedules of college football. And let me tell you, my friend, Florida State is going to be playing Florida, Miami, and Clemson every year. Miami's
Yeah.
going to play Florida, Florida State, and Notre Dame every year. Florida's going to play Florida State, Miami, Georgia, Auburn every year.
Yes. 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 And I know you remember the famous, what was it? The 94 game in the swamp, and Auburn had the undefeated team, and they went in there, and I remember watching that game at 10 years old and just being so glad that Auburn beat
Oh, you
Florida.
are so lucky. You got to watch
Yeah.
that in real time. I got
Yeah.
to watch it on a VHS tape on
I was
Auburn's
in my
greatest
room.
games.
Yeah, I was sitting in my room, 10-year old boy. I remember that day like it was yesterday. It was kind of a
Oh,
it was kind of an overcast day in South Carolina, and I remember just watching that game. And getting back to the Keith Jackson point, you know, I remember back in the '90s in the old Florida State Miami games, the Florida State Florida games, and you hear Keith Jackson come on in, whoa Nelly and all that, and he got you so amped for these games because you knew they were going to be great. So every year, us Florida, Miami, we were all always in the top 10. We were all somewhere in there fighting for a national championship. And the famous thing you say, look, if you want to win the national title, you got to go through the state of Florida.
oh
You got
yeah.
to beat Florida State, or you got to beat Florida, or you got to beat Miami. So that's how I feel about Keith Jackson. He was the guy that made me not only love the Florida State Miami rivalry, which is still my favorite rivalry to this day, but he just made me love college football. I love watching the old Tennessee Florida games, the old what I'm saying, like the old Iron Bowls and all that stuff, man. Like even when teams weren't that good, you still got hamp for those games if a guy like Keith Jackson was calling. So yeah, man, just really, really good times that will never go away. So.
Oh man, like Florida State, Miami, Florida State, and you got to hear that magical theme song of college football on ABC Sports from '83 to
Mm-hmm.
'93. Like, oh man, like
Mm,
that's amazing, man. And you got to hear the other theme songs, like, oh man, I'd play it, but I am not in the mood to deal with Disney throwing a little hissy fit on YouTube right now.
don't get me started with Disney. Disney made all of our lives miserable for a couple of
Oh,
weeks with that little dispute they had, and they finally
no.
got their minds right. Because I
They
was
took
this
away the Owl
close to
House.
canceling my prescription. I was that close. I almost did it too. Um, but yeah, man, it's just good. Good memories. Great games, great coaches, great players, great teams. Listen to Keith and just, I mean, even me, of course, being a Seminole, I don't like Miami or Florida because I hate them, but I still remember and I miss those old battles because they were so good. Like they always had you on your feet. You knew if we don't come to play today, like we're gonna lose to Miami. We're gonna lose to Florida, like because they're good too. So, and you know how it is, being a Bama fan. If you guys don't come to play, you guys will lose to an Auburn or a Tennessee or something like that. Some games are just different, and records don't matter. So, yeah, man, it's good, really, really, really good classic stuff.
Man, you're in for a good time for a long time with Keith Jackson calling college football, Brent Musburger calling college football, and you're
Shout out to Brent
also,
Musburger.
oh man, he's awesome. He is one of the goats. And
Yes, sir.
getting to hear Sean McDonough call anything really,
Oh
Major
man.
League Baseball, college
Mm-hmm.
basketball, college football, dude's a
Mm-hmm.
magician.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. He just has that voice that gets you ready for the big games. The
I
big
just wish
college games.
it's just too bad he didn't get to call a Braves playoff game this year, but I'm
No,
hoping maybe next year. I don't know
come,
if he will. I
come on,
know,
y'all. Come on, y'all. Come
I
on, man.
know it, man. I hope our
Yes,
new manager helps us get back to the promised land. I want to see another Braves World Series so bad.
let me tell you about that, man. Because you know when we won in '95, I was 11 years old, and I remember being in my room, I had all the lights off, and I'm sitting there. I'm about 2 feet from the TV, and it's 2 outs, and just a backstory. My mom, she moved to Atlanta from South Carolina in December 1990, so she moved there right when the Braves started their run in the '90s. So naturally, when she moved down there, I started going down there. I started being a Braves fan. But I had always seen them have these great teams, but they never win. So we get to the World Series, and I remember, Marquise Grissom, he catches the fly ball, and they all run, and they're just going crazy. I'm just like, oh my god, like because at that point I had seen Florida State win the national championship. I seen the Cowboys win 2 Super Bowls. I seen North Carolina basketball win the national championship. So I was a spoiled fan because all my teams were winning. You know what I'm saying? It was just, but to go 26 years, and as a Braves fan, every year we're 90 something to 100 wins, and we're always winning the division, always in the playoffs. And then, all those tough postseason losses to the Cardinals and you
Oh,
know, oh, don't even start on them. Every time we had to play them in the playoffs, I always got this feeling about playing the Cardinals. But to have all those long years of great teams, but they just couldn't get over the hump. And you remember the '96 team that should have won back to back. They had the 2-0 lead on the Yankees, and you lose 4 in a row, and then '99 you get swept by the Yankees, and then the bad year started. A little bit, after that, and then the thorn in our side, the Dodgers, they knocked us out in 13, 18, and then 2020, we had the, you know, you know, when we lost to them in the NLCS, that was tough. We were up 3 games to 1, and and I was just like, man, like, are we ever gonna see one? But when we made the World Series, actually, we made the NLCS in 2021. I said, this is the World Series.
oh
Whoever
yeah.
wins this series is gonna beat Houston.
Oh,
No
I was
disrespect. Yeah, yeah. I was like, whoever wins this is gonna be the champion. So kind of like those old Cowboys and 49ers NFC Championship games. No disrespect to the Bills, but the Cowboys and 49ers, that was the Super Bowl. Whoever won that was
It
gonna.
felt so cool seeing the Braves on TBS again. That was so
Yes,
cool.
yes,
I
yes.
mean,
That's what I grew up on. Being in South Carolina, I'm literally 3.5 hours away from Atlanta. So,
oh
you
man,
know,
Chip Carey and Skip Carey calling Braves.
mhm.
It's class.
TBS Channel 17 where I was
Oh man,
because
like the only time that when the Braves lost that didn't dislike where it was like I realized I was witnessing a historical moment was Randy Johnson throwing a no hitter on TBS. Like, wow, like
shout out to Randy Johnson.
that
What
was
a pitcher.
man, the big unit, man. It's
The
like,
big unit. Big unit. I remember, when he was on the Diamondbacks and they were playing the Yankees in '01. I was like, please beat these guys because I have a disdain for the Yankees so much because we lost 2 World Series to them. And even though we weren't in it, I said, and we had, got knocked out. I said, man, Randy, please do not let these Yankees win another World Series. Because you remember, if they would have won that one, I think that would have been 4 in a row. Because that was
yep.
the '01 one, and they would have been 4 in a row, and 5 out of 6 years or something like that. I just did not want to see another Yankees World Series,
I don't
at
think
all.
anybody in America
Oh
did.
my god! I mean, I respect how dominant they were, but I mean, it had just gotten overkill. It's like, oh my god, they win every year. But yeah, man, being a Braves fan and getting to watch, you know, Gray Maddox and Tom Glavine and John Smoltz pitch for all those years. It just gave you so much confidence every time. It didn't matter who we played. It didn't matter who was starting. You felt like we got a guy that can beat anybody. And
Yep.
it was just such a great time for Braves baseball. And anybody that's a Braves fan, they always go back, to that rotation. It's a shame that they only got one because that rotation should have won at least three. At
So
least three.
how Major League Baseball Fox has David Ortiz and A-Rod and Derek Jeter
Hey, Ryan,
together.
Derek Jeter. Yep.
So now that NBC is officially having a TV contract with Major League Baseball, I've got a pregame show idea. A really good one. It's gonna bring back the
Okay.
90s.
Okay. I
Take
like
John
that.
Smoltz out of Fox, bring him
Please.
over to NBC, and then get Greg Maddux and Tom Glavine over there.
Yes, please.
Let's
Inject
go.
that into my veins, please. I need that. I remember when they actually just honored I think it was the '95 team,
Oh,
the 30 years, and they
and
honored
get
them. And
Chipper Jones on there. We're making
yeah,
this. We're making NBC an Atlanta Braves party.
Yes, sir. I remember I was on Instagram and they were all out there on the field and they all threw their pitches at the same time. And I'm just like, my mind's just transporting back to the 90s. Like, oh, what a time. Because I mean, like I said, I watched TBS all my life growing up, Channel 17.
I
Braves
mean,
baseball, man.
NBC was able to make Michael Jordan work for them happen.
Yeah.
They could totally make this happen. Like that would be the ultimate pregame show for Major League
Hmm.
Baseball. And I'll be like,
Yes,
look,
sir.
I love the Big Poppy. I love A-Rod, Derek Jeter, but I'm gonna watch my guys at the Atlanta Braves on
Yes,
NBC.
sir. Yes,
Like,
sir. Yes, sir.
yeah, yeah, it's
And
like you can have your little Reba sitcom anytime on NBC on your
thank
weekday.
you. Thank you.
You can have that. But in the meantime, we're watching some Atlanta Braves pregame shows on Major League Baseball on NBC.
Yes, sir.
Oh,
Absolutely. Absolutely. I am totally down with that idea. I hope that ends up happening, man. Please let that happen.
make it happen. Make it happen, NBC. I don't care how much you got to pay.
Pay it.
There you go.
You'll make it back tenfold. Don't worry
I,
about it.
I feel like NBC will take better care of it than ESPN, obviously, because like we
Yeah.
see ESPN's like I mean, do we really think Stephen A. Smith knows a lot about the Braves? Stephen A's cool and all, but I don't think he knows anything about Major League Baseball. I mean, like those guys were literally trashing the Rangers Diamondbacks as the World Series in 2023. Like, come on, ESPN.
Yeah.
It's
Which
like
actually, yeah.
you didn't even watch a single game of these
No,
teams.
no, and it was actually a very entertaining series. So that's how you know like people are just talking and talk. That's the thing that's so embarrassing about ESPN now is that they went from the standard to now they're kind of like the. I mean, they are still a standard, but they're standard for the wrong things now. It's just a lot of a lot of the takes from some of the guys. It's like, are you guys watching the games or are you just looking at stats? Because
Yeah,
there has to be context and stuff too. Because stats can lie also. Like so you have to be able to put the context with them. Like I mean, a guy in football can have a lot of tackles, but
yes.
how many impactful tackles does he have? Like is he tackling at 1 to 2 yards of depth, or is he every time you see him getting a tackle, he's the guys are 7, 8 yards down the field. Yeah, he's putting up a lot of numbers, but they're not effective. So you have to. That's why film watching is so important because the eye in the sky doesn't lie. So, but yeah, man. Getting back to that Braves point, I would definitely like to see that. I'd be over the moon if I saw those three guys with a microphone in their hand. Jesus Christ!
Oh man, that would be
I mean,
cool.
and it would bring so many of the fans there that are still watching that never left, but maybe even some of the old ones that kind of fell off a little bit. They heard those three guys over there, that would probably rejuvenate some people to come back and watch the Braves. And something tells me that we're going to be a playoff team next year.
Oh, we will.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
something tells
The
me
Mets fall
we're going to be a
short
playoff
all the time. The Mets
team.
fall short. The Marlins are a disgrace to baseball. The Nats, who knows with them? Phillies, their domination at the NL East ends. We'll make sure.
Yeah, yeah. Don't get me started with them because man, we, I'm still so upset that we didn't repeat in 22.
Oh man.
We were so good offensively in 2022. I mean, we were just setting records. I mean, it seemed like every game. I mean, like we were just hitting home runs out the wazoo. I mean, we were so good offensively in 2022. I mean, I had us repeating, and then of course we lose to Philly. Right there in the playoffs, and it was just, oh
Oh,
man, it sucked
sobbed
for.
like a baby.
Yeah, I mean, for a team that
Oh,
was that good offensively, I wanted to see us get, back to back,
I was
like we should have did in the '90s. So
oh man, I was so upset when we didn't when the Braves did repeat 2022. 2011 they came up short of the wild card, and when they lost to the Astros in the NLDS in the
hmm
extra
yeah,
inning.
yeah, yeah, yep, yeah,
Uh, it's like, oh man, it was
mm,
just so sad.
yeah.
Ah,
Like, it's been so many. I mean, the Braves have been very, they were very successful, but man, during that success, we also saw a lot of heartaches too, man. It was just so many teams that could have won at all. We had so many that were capable of winning, but 2021 I think really got the old vibes back because that was such a special team, man. And once we got past the Dodgers, I remember I was at my old apartment, across the complex, and when we actually won, the NLC, when we actually won the pennant, like it. My friend that I met in Atlanta, he's 3 years older than me. He called me like literally once we started celebrating on the field, my phone rang, and me and him are just going crazy on the phone. Like, man, like, we're going back to the show, and he's like, it don't matter. Like, nobody's gonna beat us. And then you remember, Game 6 when, my man, hits the home run, and it goes almost out of the entire building. It was just like, yeah, tonight it's over. You just feel it. It was almost like the Astros crowd knew that it was over. It's like we fought hard. We got the 3-2, but these guys are just too good, man. And that was just
Man.
such a special team. I just hate that we didn't keep Freddie.
Yeah.
Losing Freddie Freeman still just pees me off so bad.
Ah, man, I cannot stand Freddie Freeman's agent. I cannot stand that guy. That guy's a turd. I mean, like Freddie Freeman didn't even want to leave. Like he's
No,
like,
he
dude,
didn't.
do whatever you can, keep me in Atlanta. He's like, no, I did not mean that. And it's like, you're out. So it's
Yeah.
like,
He said that at the parade. He was like, I want to be back. Like get her done.
mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because I mean, like it could have been like Chipper Jones, where he was a lifer in Atlanta, but I suspect once Freddie Freeman's contract runs out, he's gonna
Mhm.
come back to Atlanta, just like how when Albert Pujols' contract ran out with the Angels, he
Right
came
back to
back to
St.
St.
Louis.
Louis.
Hmm.
That's what I
Hey,
think. Yeah, I mean, like
hey,
I
come
just
on back.
come on back.
Whenever you want to come back, come on back because he is missed. I mean, even I know yep, exactly all the Braves fans I know on Twitter. Whenever he does something with the Dodgers, we're always like, man, that Freddie. And it's always like I just hate that he's doing it there. And the fact that he's gone is bad enough, but the fact that he's with the Dodgers just makes it worse. Because the Dodgers are in it, one of
They're
the top
turds.
enemies for me.
They're turds.
I'm so tired of them winning. That's why I'm so glad when we won that we knocked them out to get there. So
Yes, it
yes, like
felt so good knocking them
it
out.
felt
Like
so good.
they knocked us out in the 2020 COVID season, but then at the same time, it was, you know what? We'll let you have your little COVID year. But in the
Hmm.
meantime, when it's regular season,
Yeah,
we're coming for y'all.
yeah, we
And we
coming in.
did.
Yeah, and I mean, I was just so confident that year. Like, even though I knew the Dodgers were obviously capable of beating us, they were a really good team. But
Ugh.
I just, even though we had lost the year before, I just didn't feel like anybody could beat us that year. And I knew once we got past them, it didn't matter who came out of the American League.
Yeah,
That was just our year.
oh yeah, Dodgers can have their Mickey Mouse title. We've got a real title. Yeah, we've got our Donald Duck real title.
There you go.
Like Donald's better than Mickey anyhow. Mickey's too nice. Donald's
There
the
you
guy
go.
that actually goes
There
through
you
stuff.
go. Yes.
He should be the new headquarter mascot for Disney instead of Mickey Mouse.
Right. Yeah. I've never been a Mickey Mouse guy.
I know, right? It's just like
Nah.
it's like, but I will say, Donald did go too far, like trying to open that little window, just like break it. It like, bro, it's like right, like just like boom, boom with the extension cords.
There you go.
Oh man. Oh, it's so
Yeah.
funny. Like Daisy, like just goes temper. Shame on you over that. But then she gets more mad about him like making fun of the hat that she's
Right.
wearing. I never understand that. Oh man. Note to self: I may have to consider getting Disney Plus just to watch those old Donald Duck cartoons.
Oh, yeah, I'm definitely a Disney Plus guy too. As I grew up on Disney. I mean, I'm 41 years old and I still watch The Lion King sometimes. I watch a Goofy movie and Aladdin and stuff like that still to this day. Every now and then when I'm feeling like a big kid and I just want to have a big kid day, I'll throw some of those on sometimes.
Oh, oh man, I always kind of laugh at Scar where he's just like talking about the hyenas, where he calls them, "I'm surrounded by idiots."
Right. Yes,
Oh
sir.
man. Oh man, it's just so funny. That little "Be Prepared" song, like he's literally talking about a coup, while the hyenas are just talking about eating some food. They're hungry. They're starving.
Yeah. I always tell people that is, they talk about diss tracks and rap. I said there is no diss track ever better than Be Prepared. This guy's talking about killing his own brother. Like that is outrageous. He's talking about killing his
You
brother and
won't let us
his
live
nephew.
without me.
Right. Like, it's just like this guy's diabolical. Then he actually does it. It's just like, wow, okay.
Long live the king.
Yeah, man. Crazy stuff.
Oh man. Oh man, it's a classic.
Yes, sir.
But the Cowboys had a great night Monday night, and it was a domination over the Raiders, 33-16. I don't understand that whole wanting to fire Carroll after 1 year, but I mean, like, whatever on the Raiders. But it was notable because it's the first game without Marshawn Nealon since the events that happened to him. And you talked about this a week or so ago on Ets that you had some similar events to that. What's the bat story on it exactly?
Well, this goes back to this was my second stint up in Massachusetts. Um, I you know the reason why I left the first time was because my father passed away in 2012, and I had to move back home and take care of things there. But I had another opportunity to go back and go up there and work because one of the guys I worked with the first time got his own little deal, and we were doing door to door sales. We were lowering the cost of people's light bills, and making really good money. But the market had kind of got dried up, and I was living with two other guys that we were working with, but you know, me and one of the guys, we started to have a little bit of a rift, and you know, my name wasn't on anything, and he kind of used that against me to put me out the door. So after being in a position where I was making some really good money and having fun and living a life, next thing you know, I was actually living in my car.
Oh,
And this was on June the 25th, 2014, and um, everything I owned was in my back seat, and I ended up being on the street for 26 consecutive days. And you got to remember, when people think of the Boston area, they think of the cold, but it gets very hot in the summertime too. So I'm literally having to like run my car all day so that I can have the AC on so I don't burn up. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, shout out to my friend Frank, because he was living in the house too. And he actually, he didn't agree with what the other guy did. But, he had a very young daughter, and he had to keep doing what he had to do because I was living outside my car not too far away from where we were living at. And one night, he because the other guy, he had went back down to Louisiana to see his family. He said, "Look, man, I know you're not supposed to be in here, but I just hate seeing you sleep in this car. Like, come in here and get you a good night's sleep." And I went in there and got me a good night's sleep. But yeah, man, 26 days in a row. I was homeless. I was, you know, I had to get, when you sit in a car all day long, when you get up in the morning, like your body's crunched in. So, you got to kind of like unfold yourself when you get out the car, and then, you have to, I had to I had to use the bathroom, you know, behind dumpsters, and, you know, I had to drive down the street to Walmart and try to sneak a bar of soap in in the bathroom so I could clean my body as much as I could. And
Wow.
my mom was helping me as much as she could. Of course, she had her own stuff to deal with, so it was just, and I had like a little switchblade that I had, not for any, malicious purposes, but when you're on the street, I slept with it on my lap every night
Wow.
because, I don't know if somebody's gonna try to rob me. I don't know what's gonna go on. So every time I heard a noise, it would make me jump, and I would jump out my car. I'm looking around, making sure nobody's trying to, get me and stuff like that. And actually, one night there was a group of kids that came outside a building, and they were making a lot of noise, and they woke me up, and I literally pulled it out, and I stepped out, and I actually, made them all disperse and run away because I was just in survival mode. And one night, this was, let's see, this was July, I think 18th, 2014. Everything had come to a pretty dark place for me, to the point where I felt like Marshawn Nealon felt, as to the point where I didn't want to be here anymore. And you know, I'm sitting there and I got my hand on the steering wheel, and excuse me because it's kind of
That's
taking
right,
effect.
man.
Um, I'm holding the steering wheel, and I got tears in my eyes, and you gotta remember, this is like my dad had only been gone for about 2 years, so that's still fresh in my head. And you're thinking about, I'm thinking about I'm disappointing him, I'm disappointing my mom, and like, and if I gotta live like this, like, then I don't want to be here no more. And right when I was thinking about doing something crazy that would have took my mom's son away from her and take, my sister's brother away from them, my phone rang, and it was my mom. And this was about 10, 11 o'clock at night Eastern time. And she didn't, she just was talking to me regularly. Of course, I'm telling her I'm just, you know, I'm like, I'm just down. And she didn't really go into any details about what she was thinking, but me and her talked for 2 hours that night. And when we hung up the phone, even though I was still in that car, something told me that I was gonna be all right. I just felt like, okay, the the thought of not wanting to be around anymore was gone, which made me feel good. Like, okay, like I've got that out my head now. Like I've snapped back into, valuing life. And the next morning when I woke up, I had a text on my phone from a guy named Anthony. And I know you remember Craigslist. A guy,
Yep.
people, put their car. So I had put my car on Craigslist because I wanted to sell it so I could, move back home to South Carolina. So the very next morning, this is Saturday morning, and I got a message, and he sent me a picture of an envelope with a big stack of money in it. And he said, I have to work today and Sunday, but Monday morning, if you meet me here at this address, I have the money to pay for your car.
Wow.
And I'm just like, well, of course, I called my mom. We had just talked that night before. I said, Mom, like, a guy wants to buy my car. Like, I'm getting ready to get out of here. I'm getting ready to get out of here. And of course, I'm just like, I'm overwhelmed with happy emotions, of course, tears are coming down, but these are happy tears. Like, oh my God, like just like that. 24 hours ago, it was less than 12 hours ago, I didn't want to be here no more. And now I'm about to have everything I need to get out of here in a couple of days. So, and, of course, I'm, telling my mom, like, hey, because I had like $1,500 left to pay my car off. And he gave me $3,000 for it. So what I did was, I sent half the money back to pay it off, and then I signed the money over. I signed the car over to him. And of course, I'm telling my mom, like, hey, Mom, get ready to come back home. And my mom immediately said, do not come back to South Carolina. Now, of course, I'm thrown off. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I'm coming back home. Like, I'm getting out of here. She said, son, if you come back here, you're going to get in another rut. Like there's nothing here. Like go where you always wanted to go. And I said, Texas? She said, yeah. She's like, go to Texas. And I said, Mom, I don't have a car. I don't have a job. I don't have nowhere to stay. She said, Matthew, when you were 6 years old, when you and your sister, your younger sister, well, older than me, but I have two older sisters. But when you and your sister decided to stay with your dad, and I took your older sister to Atlanta, I had a 16-year-old and $600 to my name, and that was it. And she said, and I ended up staying in Atlanta for 12 years. She said, you got about three times that. And you don't have a wife, you don't have kids, you just have you. She said, go figure it out. So I got on my phone and I found an extended stay in Dallas. And of course, if you pay a weekly rate, it's cheaper than paying day to day. So I ended up paying for a room for about 2 months, and I bought two plane tickets, one from Boston to DC and another from DC to Dallas. And a couple of days later, I ended up at Dallas Fort Worth Airport
Wow.
with everything I own. No car, no job, nowhere to stay. A couple of guys that I met on Twitter knew that I was coming out there. After I got everything straight, but I went out there, by myself. Just I had a room finally. I remember my mom telling me, she said, son, whenever you get there, when you go to sleep and you wake up the next day, when you wake up, your whole body's gonna hurt because you've been sitting in the car for a month. So I remember waking up the next day and man, my I, like my fingernails hurt,
Wow.
like the hair on my arm, like everything was so sore. But I say all that to say, when I got there, my mom, we talked on the phone. She said, "Son, the reason why I called you that night is because I had mother's intuition that you were thinking about doing something that was very, very bad, that you weren't going to be here no more." Like I didn't tell her anything; she felt it, and that's why when I tell this story, I always tell people my mom saved my life. Even though I don't know if I would have went through with it, but the fact that I was thinking that way and it was so heavy on my mind, I don't know what would have happened if that phone went ring. So I say all that to get to this situation with Marshawn Nealon hit me so hard because I've been on the edge. I've been where he was on November the 6th. And I just think about how alone and how low he must felt that he didn't tell anybody, that he didn't reach out, that he didn't, um, you know, get help with those demons. And then when you hear the details about how he texted his family and told them goodbye and stuff like that, it's just like it's so. And then his girlfriend is pregnant, like
Wow.
she's with child. So now his child's gonna grow up without him. It's so sad. It's so it was because I remember getting up that morning. I get on Twitter and I just see a lot of people close to the team and even some of the content creators like, I hope this isn't true. And then I get a message and I'm just like, hold on, what? Like it's like, you know, we think something happened to Marshawn. I'm like Marshawn Neal, like, yeah, and then I just start hearing the stuff about him not being here anymore, and you know, and then the news breaks that it's official. And I remember I saw Patrick Walker, tweeting that it's true. I'm devastated. I'm getting off of here because he had a close personal relationship with Marshawn. They spoke a lot in the locker room. They talked about stuff off the field and told each other they loved each other when they saw each other. Like they were close. So Patrick felt like he lost a brother. So
Wow.
um, yeah, man, that was as a fan of sports, for almost 35 years watching sports, man, that's one of the most tragic and saddest days to think about a young man, 24 years old, that's not here anymore, and to leave the way they left. And for me, as you just heard, I was there. Like I know what it's like to get to that point, and I just can't imagine how alone he must felt the way he had to take it that far. So um, it's just very sad. I mean, even me right now, me and you talked behind the scenes. I'm going through a little bit, and it's been and thankfully I have people to talk to. Because life can kick you in the can sometimes, but
Can.
you anybody out there who will watch this, um, talk to somebody, please. Like
Always.
if and especially if you're a man, do not have so much pride and feel like you have to be so tough that you have to keep hurting guarded. There's a reason why men and women, we all have tear glands, because we're humans. We humans are emotional beings. We have all kind of emotions: anger, sadness, elation. All that stuff is real. And men, we have been, I always say, improperly and unjustly trained to be tough. That you're not supposed to, like, saying that I'm down or I'm hurting is a sign of weakness. That's actually a sign of being a real human being. It's okay to hit your male friend up and say, "Hey, buddy, I'm not doing good," and to cry on the shoulder and bare your soul. Hey, scream if you have to. If you're hurting that bad, let somebody hear it.
Yeah.
It's okay. And I know, it's something that I've struggled with and still do a little bit to this day. I'm much better with it now, but I was conditioned that way. Like, a man mans up and he deals with things. But and I've always been the friend that listen to everybody's problems and give good advice, and I'm the one that people turn to. But strong people need strong people too.
Exactly. Reliable people need people to rely on too.
Yes, like at some point the backbone needs a backbone. You know what I'm saying? Because something's gonna happen in your life, and it's gonna hit you like a ton of bricks. And for me, being homeless hit me like a ton of bricks, man. It it humbled me. It it made me realize that life can get really bad. Really bad things can happen. But everybody out there that'll see this video, you are worth it. The world is better with you in it. The people you love, their lives are better because you're in it. That's why they love you. They love you because you make their life better. Don't ever forget that. No matter how hard it is, it, whoever it is, if it's your parent, if it's a sibling, a teacher, a coach, a coworker, a boss, somebody will listen. And you may have to dig a little bit to find that person, but somebody will open that ear and they will let you cry. They won't judge you, you know. And somebody like me, I actually like when people can be vulnerable with me. Like,
So,
I like that because I know what it's like to be there. I know what it's like to. I'll never forget this day, Jackson. When I was living in that car, this was probably about halfway through that time. I remember I pulled my visor down in my car and I was stunned because I didn't recognize the person I was looking at. Like, I actually leaned up and looked like, is that me? Like, I looked defeated. I looked lost. I looked like I didn't have no direction. So anybody out there, if you're going through anything, talk to somebody. please do not give up on your life. Your life matters, no matter what gender, what race. Well, first of all, there's only one race. It's the human race. We are the ones that have put us in all these groups. You know what I always say, Jackson? You want to know what the true essence of people are? Watch children. Go to a daycare, go to a playground, and just watch children. You don't see a group of black kids over here and a group of white kids over here and a Hispanic kids over there. Everybody's playing together. Everybody's having fun. Everybody's running around. Everybody's hugging and laughing and having a good time because there's only one race. Your skin tone is different than mine, but we both have two ears, two eyes, a mouth, a nose, two legs, two arms. When we wake up in the morning, we both have morning breath. You know what I'm saying? It's no
Yeah,
different. We're all the same. We are the same part. So this world needs you, people.
it
If
does.
if there's one person that watches this video that can take something from that and they're going through that, you matter. The people that love you will not be okay if you're not
No,
here because you make them better and you make this world better. So no matter how down you get, let it out. Talk to somebody, scream, yell, cry, pray, and always. And my mom taught me this: just ask God for the answers. Don't say gimme, gimme, gimme. Just say, what do I have to do to change this? What is it that I need to learn or need to see or do to get me through this? So that's why this whole Marshawn Nean thing hit me because, like I said, you saw my tweet. Like it was just like, oh, like it took me back to sitting in that car, man, and to think that that could have been me. Like, what if that phone didn't ring that night? You know, because I had thoughts of just pulling out in front of one of those 18 wheelers on the interstate and not being here anymore. Like that was what I was thinking about doing. You know, I don't know if I would have, but if that call didn't come, who knows? Because I was very emotional that night. I had tears in my eyes, and I was out of it. I was mentally spent, emotionally spent, physically drained. But you matter, people. I promise you. There's somebody out there that will give everything in their power to help you, even if it's taking you to somebody that can get you the right help. But sometimes it's just talking to somebody and being able to vent. Sometimes people just need to vent.
exactly.
They just need to feel like somebody will listen, and that right there would trigger a whole 180. Like, oh, somebody cares. Somebody wants to help me. Somebody is willing to not judge and let me be vulnerable. That right there can turn everything around. Let me tell you something that my dad did once. We were in the supermarket. I was about 15, 16 years old, and this lady, very very attractive lady, was in the aisle, and I saw my dad walk over to her. I'm like, oh, look at this guy. He's about to go, try to do his thing or whatever. 'Cause I had seen him do it before, but so he talked to her for about a minute or two, and he came back over to me. And Dad, who is that? He said, I don't know. He was like, I've never seen him before in my life. And I was like, well, why did you just walk up to her like that? He said, son, she could have lost her job.
Wow.
She could have just got divorced. She may have lost a parent, may have lost a sibling, may have lost a child. She may just, lost a job, whatever. You don't know what anybody's going to. He said, just simply going over to her and, you know what? You look very nice today. How are you doing? Are you doing all right? Nice to meet you. Have a good day. Like that's basically what he said to her. And it just to make because I thought he knew her because he walked up to her so like it was somebody he knew. But he just said a few nice words to her, like, hey, how are you doing? You look nice. I hope you have a good day. He said that right there could change somebody's day because they could be feeling like they don't want to be here. And that just get back to what I'm saying is find somebody that has an open ear because if it's only one person, no matter who you are, somebody cares.
They do.
Somebody cares, somebody will listen, and they will let you be. They will offer their shoulder for you to cry on. So anybody out there who sees this, if you're going through something similar, please talk to somebody and make sure that you stay in this world that needs you
This for you, ladies and gentlemen. This for you, ladies and gentlemen. And we are so grateful that you are with us in this world, Matthew. Like, cause you, my friend, bring a ton of magic.
here.
Like,
Thank you so much.
oh, you're
I,
welcome, man. I mean,
I
you
really
bring
appreciate
a expertise, and and you've got a kind heart, and you're a great guy to hang out with. I mean, it's like
it. I appreciate it. Likewise, and like I told you, when I had, no, my mom asked me about you, and she went to your page, and she was like, "Man, I just like this Jackson Johnson guy." I said, doesn't he have a aura about him, like a positivity that just makes you kind of upbeat? She said, "Yeah, he really does." And I was like, "Yeah, he just some people just have that." And I remember when we did the preseason show with Alabama, and we got to talk for the first time. I said, "Man, he has an energy about him, and he has a spirit about him that's good." And you know, there's so much going on in the world today. This world's so crazy, and there's so much negativity.
yeah,
When you get around people that are positive and want to see other people win and want to see people do good, you want to surround yourself with people like that. So I'm grateful for you, uh, for hooking me up with the voice of college football and sticking with me through some kind of sticky times, not just with the channel, but in my life. I say we talk behind the scenes, and just being able to say that to you. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's you were an ear. Like, everything's not going the way I want to right now, but I know eventually it will,
oh yeah,
because anytime I get to the point where I'm like, man, like I can't take this, like what is going on, I go back to that car and I realize, like, okay, it's not as bad as I think it is, because that was as low as you can get. You don't have a roof over your head. You're using the bathroom behind dumpsters. You got to go wash up in, Walmart bathrooms and scrape and get meals every day. And a couple of days, I didn't eat. You know what I mean? So yeah, it'll never get back to that. So yeah, if you're out there, anybody, of course, but for men, and because you're a man, we're conditioned to be these, you know, like these kind of like cyborgs. Like, we just supposed to be able to handle anything. Everything bounces off us, but that's just not reality.
yeah,
Men hurt, men cry, men worry, men get sad, men get confused. We're no different than women. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, and the thing about it is, the strongest people actually need the most people. I've always felt that, because as they say, God gives the toughest battles to the strongest shoulder, to the strongest soldiers. So if I have to be strong, then that means I need a support system to keep me strong, so that I can be there for other people. And then I not only do I have something to lean on, but I can be strong for the people that need me.
there you
So
go.
iron sharp as iron, people.
Oh man,
Right?
you got me thinking about that "Lean on Me" song. I remember hearing that from Bill Withers. I heard it from the Disney Channel show Amphibia, like, and I heard it on another movie, but I was like, "That's a good song right there."
Oh yeah,
It's a
yeah,
classic.
and yeah, Lean on Me is one of my favorite movies too.
Oh
So
man,
shout out to Morgan Freeman. God, Morgan Freeman has been, I think he's been 85 for about 40 years now. I mean, that guy just never ages. You know,
oh yeah,
yeah, he's
Morgan Freeman.
yes, man. Personally, he's in my top 5 actors of all time. He's just so timeless, man.
Oh man.
He's so timeless. Him, Denzel, Leonardo DiCaprio, Pacino, De Niro. Those are like my 5 guys.
Oh
Yeah,
man, it's like, like the story of Morgan Freeman is basically the definition of it's never too late to start over, because it's like, he got his big break like before he turned 40, I think. Like
yeah,
Yeah, because I mean, it's like
Yeah,
he was.
yeah, he was like around my age. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it's I mean that I always look to that right there, where anybody says, "Well, it's too late for me to do what I want to do with my life." It's like, no, it's never too late.
Mm-mm.
You just gotta make sure you have a plan and go through with it,
Right.
and you'll be good to go.
Yes.
Oh, here we go. But luckily, I've been really curious about the Cowboys this season. Because it was like, you know, just looking back at it, it's been close, but no cigar on Thursday night football week one against the Eagles. Win a tight one against the Giants. Lose to the Bears. And look, I'm not even a Cowboys or a Packers fan, but I was mad about the tie.
Oh,
I get infuriated by ties. I mean, it's like it's 2025, not 1955. Roger
right.
Goodell did better.
Please
But
do
luckily, you
that.
smack the Jets, chew 'em up like a chicken nugget.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, lose to the Panthers. Win a big one against the Commanders. Oh, man. Get chewed up by the Broncos. Kyler Murray. I mean, man. But you did beat the Raiders. But on Sunday, you got the Eagles in the second matchup. And then on Thanksgiving are the Chiefs. And you got Al Michaels calling Cowboys lines. Hey, Al Michaels be happy this time. He's gonna go in it hard. And oh my god, 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 December 14th. I know what it is. The 50th anniversary of the Hail Mary pass from Roger Staubach to Drew Pearson in the 75 playoffs. And
Yes, sir.
I
The
just know
originators.
Oh man, I just know we're gonna be seeing Roger Staubach and Pearson and Fran Tarkenton and a few of those Vikings Cowboys legends on NBC. I
Mhm.
just know it. I'm
Got to.
glad they're not flexing it out of Sunday night football. I mean, I know that the Cowboys Vikings haven't been impressive this season, but still though, don't flex this out of Sunday night.
No, not
Please,
at all.
NFL,
Not at
keep it
all.
on NBC. I want to hear the backstory of
Yes,
1975.
I wanna hear some stories from the guys that are still here that can tell it. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yes.
absolutely,
Let's
absolutely.
go. Let's
Please
go.
do it. Please do it.
Oh man. And the Chargers, the fighting Hardballs, and then on Christmas Day on Netflix, the Commanders and them boys. And then we got the Cowboys and the Giants, which I think it all depends on playoff positioning. We're probably going to see it either on ESPN slash ABC Saturday night or Saturday afternoon, or we're going to be seeing it on Sunday afternoon.
Right.
But how are you feeling about the 2025 season as a whole with your new coach? How you feeling about him?
Honestly, man, Brian Schottenheimer has really won this fan base over. He just, of course, this is his first time, being the guy, and I don't care what kind of team you have, they're more likely going to be some trials and tribulations at some point, like there is in any football season anyway. But with the culture that he's built, and also the way he's handled this Marshawn Needham situation, he has knocked this out of the park. Like the way he's handled it, the way he's handled the players, the way he's kept them galvanized, the way they rallied around him as the leader has shown us, like, you know what? Okay, like we have our guy. And then, as you remember with the Raiders game, CD and George Pickens don't play the first series, and we're all like, what? Like, what is this? Like, what? And even me, I actually jumped the gun. I'm like, I don't, because people saying that they were maybe late. I was like, I don't care. Like, this is an emotional weekend. Like, what are we doing? Send a message later. I'm like, this is whatever. But then I get the full backstory on it. I'm like, okay. And then later on in the game, you see him run over to CD and Pickens, and he hugs them, and they're all smiling. And that's when I was like, okay, this is different with this guy. Like they're all good, they're all smiling and hugging. So whatever message he sent, it worked. Like he has for a guy that came in with a roster that needed so much, especially defensively, because we all felt like even if Michael Parsons was still here, that the defense was going to be a challenge. We were going to have a challenge of being good on defense. But I just think his influence right now, I think that Jerry and Steven, and trust me, I'm not fans of either one of those guys at all, and with good reason. But I feel like they have a trust in him that they're gonna give him the stuff that he needs. And if you look at what he's done, I mean, trade for George Pickens blew the roof off the Cowboys fan base. Like that was just like we did what? Like Pickens? Like like all right, okay, and then the trade deadline comes, and they had already been rumblings that Logan Wilson was coming. Like people felt like, okay, it kind of feels like Logan Wilson's going to be a Cowboy, and I was totally fine with that. But when the news breaks about Quentin Williams, that's when I was like, whoa, okay. Like they're you still did it too late. You should have did stuff like this in the off season, but you don't ever poo-poo getting a guy like Quentin Williams. And then when you look at what he did against the Raiders, I mean, he was so dominant. He looked so fresh, so good. You remember because he had like 2 weeks off because he had a bye with the Jets, and then he comes to us, and we had a bye coming. So he had like 2 weeks to really, whatever bumps and bruises he may have had to get healed up. And he comes out there, he's dominant. Kenny Clark's doing his thing, Osa's doing his thing. The defense had a really good night. And then like I said, George Pickens was a man amongst boys. He just looked like, you know, he just looked like he was in a whole different planet than anybody else. And then you see CD, he's making plays. Dax he hit 4 different plays for touchdowns. And to see them come out and play like that, and I don't care if it's the Raiders, I don't care who it would have been. After going through that, to have that team that prepared and stressing the whole week, we're playing like we want to have a good showing from Marshawn. And you go out there on one of the biggest stages in the sport, on Monday Night Football, and you dominate. It just makes me feel like he has like his culture set. Um, they they believe in what he brings to the table. And if you see any of our post game locker room stuff whenever we win, he has a sheet in his hand. He's calling out the plays. Dak had a touchdown. Yeah. Everybody's yelling. CD had a touchdown. Yeah. Like it just he's brought this aura, this energy, this vibe to the team that I feel like we have our guy. And the two most important things to me for a team, you gotta have the right coach, you gotta have a quarterback. And we have one of the better quarterbacks in the league, and now I feel like we have a guy at the helm running the show as far as the coach. That I feel like they're gonna do what they need to do to get him the best roster they can. They still need to change some things. Still need to be more aggressive in free agency, and we have to get back to being a good drafting team because that was our main thing under Mike McCarthy. We were drafting really good. But the last 3 years or so, our drafts have not been good. So got to get better there. But the season as a whole, um, you know, I always felt like it was going to be a challenge for them to make the playoffs. And that was even, like I said, even if Michael was still here, I always felt like it was going to be a challenge because you got a first year head coach, and that can be hit or miss. But um, the thing that bothers me the most about the season is the losses to the Panthers and the loss to the Cardinals.
Oh,
Though those were
the
inexcusable
retirement
losses,
home of the NFL, the Arizona Cardinals.
and they have had our number for so long. No matter if we were good, bad. I mean, you go back to the Tony Romo era. We just cannot beat the Cardinals. We can't beat the Cardinals, and we can't beat the Broncos. Like we haven't beat the Broncos since the '90s. Like it's been so long since we beat them. So like the Broncos game doesn't bother me because they have such a dominant defense. even though I hate the way we played. But if you win those games, you're supposed to win against the Cardinals and the Panthers. Like you're sitting at 6-3-1 right now. You're in the middle of the playoff hunt. Like you're right there where the wild card teams and the top teams in the hunt are. Like you're right there. So we put ourselves in a position where now these last 7 games, minimum we're going to have to win 5 of them, and you're probably going to have to win 6 to get into the playoffs. And that's what makes those losses to Arizona and Carolina so frustrating, because if you took care of business there, now you cut 5-6 wins down to 3 or 4 wins to get into the playoffs in these last 7. So, and we have a gauntlet coming up: Philadelphia, then it's Kansas City, then it's Detroit. So that's going to be tough. And as much as the Eagles are struggling offensively, their defense looks nasty right
Gonna be in for some nasty weather, like Bad
now.
Moon Rising.
Yeah, man, that's the one thing right now. Their offense isn't clicking, but that defense, now they added Jalen Phillips. Their defense looks Super Bowl ready right now. Like they're playing their best ball heading into the stretch. So it's going to be tough, but I feel like we're going to pull off an upset someday.
Oh man, well, I mean, I could see that happen.
Because they're coming to Dallas, we coming off a big emotional win. I think that kind of got us back on track, and we notoriously split with the Philadelphia Eagles all the time. Like we always split with them. So I'm hoping that that's the case, because if you win that game and you get to 5-5-1, I would feel a lot better about Kansas City on Thanksgiving. So it's a tough hill to climb. It's likely too steep. Just being realistic, I pride myself on not just being a homer. I look at things realistically. It's going to be tough to win that many games and sneak in, but just do what you got to do. Focus on going 1-0 every week. Football is a week-to-week league. Because look at us. We went toe to toe with Green Bay and dropped a 40 burger on one of the better defenses in the league, and then you come back the next week and you look like it's just.
At least the Cowboys have a shot at the playoffs this season. Like the Titans, they don't have a shot in heck. It's a failure to communicate over in Tennessee.
Yeah. It's some rough days ahead in Tennessee. It's probably going to be that way for a while. So
agreed. But before we go and before we tell everybody where they can find you, what's been your favorite Cowboys moment of all time from the history of Thanksgiving? Anytime the Cowboys have played on Thanksgiving.
Favorite Thanksgiving memory. I hate that I can't remember what year it was.
Okay.
But I remember it was one year when they won. And matter of fact, I want to say it was 94, if I'm not mistaken. When I think it was the Jason Garrett game when he came in for Troy. He led us to a win and stuff like that. And they were eating the turducken. I know you remember the turducken and all that. Oh yeah. I can't remember what
I gotta get the recipe to that.
Right. Yeah, but just seeing them eat the turducken, that was always cool. I've also had some not so fond memories of Thanksgiving. The one particular, the Leon Lett, thing with against Miami. But yeah, it's probably
snow.
Yeah, and the snow and all that. But yeah, but if I had to, probably the one, like I said, I think it was the '94 one when Jason came in and he showed out for Cowboys. That's probably my favorite one. Probably in Cowboys history.
I'll give you my favorite one. You ready?
Okay.
This is before either one of us were born. 1974 Cowboys Redskins.
Mm,
where unfortunately Roger Staubach got hurt. The Redskins are like, "Oh, we're going to take Roger out of this game. We're going to take him out of this game." But then you got this little baby face boy named Clint Longley who comes into the game. And you know, it's funny looking back at like these fun interviews where Coach Landry's like, "You're up, kid," and,
mm-hmm.
and then Longley, you know, he's just throwing long bombs all over the place, and it's just a kid who was shooting at a barrel rattlesnakes for fun,
Right.
just like throwing in victories, throwing long bombs over the Redskins. I mean, it was like karma for the Washington Redskins that day. It's like,
Mhm.
oh yeah, you're gonna be hurting the starting quarterback of the game, Captain Comeback himself. And then it's like, oh yeah, it's not gonna backfire on us. But it did.
Mhm. Yes, sir. And so me, I think it's kind of a rule of thumb, when you first become a Cowboys fan, especially back from my era and all the years before that, you're the first team you're taught to hate is, the old Washington Redskins, the old Cowboys, and then like that was the first team. I mean, I hated them all, of course, but when I was a little kid, oh yeah, Washington was. I mean, they just brought out this this in me, like kind of like the Florida Gators do. As much as I hate Miami, Florida is, just like Bobby Bowden said, he did an interview. He was like, Florida State and Miami is kind of like, it's kind of like a brother. It's you hate them, but you have so much respect for them. But he said those daggum Gators, that's just pure daggum hate, and that's how I felt about Washington. But that changed. They went from being number one back, down a little bit in 1999 when I was watching the game live when Michael Irvin's career ended. Yeah, because Michael Irvin is my favorite Cowboy, my favorite football player, favorite athlete of all time. I was actually, thanks to NGSC Sports, shout out to Ralph Garcia again. I got to cover the 2021 Hall of Fame in Canton. So yeah, that was a bucket list. I was in the booth with Newey Scruggs from NBSC or DFW, and Clarence Hill over at DLS now, who's been covering the Cowboys since back when his Fort Worth Star Telegram days. And I was literally, I had my laptop bag, and I'm walking downstairs, and they had like the little media portion was downstairs where the guys who like did radio, they were down there. And I look to the left, and I see this guy with a gold jacket on, and I know the voice. I'm like, that's Michael Irvin. And I've met stars before. I've met movie stars. I've met pro wrestlers and even other athletes. But when I saw Michael Irvin, that I got kind of starstruck for a second. I said, "Oh my gosh, Michael Irvin!"
No.
And I said, "I have to say something to him." So he turns around, he looks right at me, and I stuck out my hand, and I said, "Hey, Mr. Irvin, it's so nice to meet you. You're my favorite player. This is an honor." And he was just so nice, and he had like a lady with him. You could tell that was like his assistant or something, and they were trying to rush him out the building. And I pulled out my phone. I said, "Can I get a picture?" And he said, "Yeah, just come over here." So we're both walking out the door. He hands my phone to this lady. Me and him take a picture together. We shake hands again. We walk outside. He goes to the right. I go to the left. And I called my mom at around midnight. I'm like waking my mom. I'm like, "My mom, get up, get up, get up, get up." You never guess what's happened. So what happened? I said, "I just met Michael Irvin." She said, "You met who?" Because she knows how I feel about Michael Irvin. So I sent her the picture. And she's just like, "Oh my goodness." Like that was just such a bucket list moment for me. So
Oh, there you go.
yeah, so when I was 15 in the 1999 season, when we were playing in Philadelphia, I was watching it live. I remember him catching that pass, and I remember him going down, and he didn't get up. And I remember hearing those Eagles fans cheering that he was hurt.
Ugh.
That day right there, I said, "Washington, I still hate you. I got to slide you out of that number one spot," and I put Philly right there, number one.
Oh
For
man.
the last 26 years, they have been the team I've hated the most in the NFC.
I keep laughing at that video of that Eagles YouTuber who's well, he's nowadays a guy you don't want to be associated with because he went looking for cupcakes, but not the cupcakes that you and I go for, but
Right.
yeah, yeah, he's up no good. But yeah,
Yeah.
I was watching like it was a video from Urinating Tree about the history of the Eagles, and that's how I found out about that guy.
Okay.
And there's like one video where he was reacting to the Cowboys Packers, and he, oh god, like how that guy even had a channel is even beyond me. Like he wipes his
Right.
butt with a Cowboys hat. And he's wiping it with a Cowboys. Like, I mean, look, I'm a Bellman, and I'm not too crazy about Auburn or Tennessee, but that's dumb. That is
Yeah.
completely dumb.
It's just childish.
Like,
It's
you're a grown man acting like a teenager.
you would you would think, right?
Ugh.
Yeah.
Oh,
People do anything for clicks, man.
oh Lord, it's like that. That's worse than a TikToker acting stupid. Because I mean, like
Right.
because you know that's like teenagers, but no, that's a grown man acting a
Mhm.
fool on YouTube. But like,
Yes,
good
sir.
grief,
Yeah. Definitely not something I would ever be associated with.
no.
But not at all.
Oh man. But you know, you've got some magic cooking on FSU Wire, blogging the boys, Florida State, the Voice of College Football. Tell them where they can find you.
Like I said, well, he kind of, told me, told you, on Twitter at Star Conscience. And if you have trouble spelling the word conscience, the word con and science, and put them together, that's how you spell conscience. So at Star Conscience on Twitter, you can find my work on the Cowboys at Blogging the Boys, my work about Florida State on FSU Wire, and the Voice of College Football. We will be back rolling there on YouTube on the Florida State channel. So that's where all my stuff is. So come check me out if you're a fan of either team, and even if you hate the team, you just want to see what somebody who the team you don't like has to say. Come on over.
Oh
Don't
yeah.
matter. Come on over.
Tell your friends, your family, and the cashiers at Publix about the magic that Matthew Lenix brings. All right here on Florida State, the Voice of College Football, FSU Wire, and Blogging the Boys at SB Nation. And of course, you can check me out on Jackson Johnson 979, where I'm now 275 subs away from that magic number 1,000. I'd love to get to 1,000
Let's
subs.
go.
There we
Let's
go.
get let's get Jack to 1,000, baby.
There we go. We've got some magic cooking. And you can also check me out on Alabama with the Voice of College Football, where Jeffrey Trevion and myself are discussing the latest news and notes on the Crimson Tide Mondays at 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern Time on Crimson Tide Live. Trevion and I discussed Crimson Tide Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays and Thursday nights. Jeffrey and I take your calls on the Crimson Tide at 10 p.m. Eastern, and we have a wild, wild night on the Alabama College Show. And the post-game show with Trevion, Jeffrey, and myself after every game. And I'm just going to promise you, Alabama Eastern Illinois is much shorter than Alabama Oklahoma. So that's for sure.
Yeah.
And you
And
can
and,
all,
and
huh,
I didn't mean to cut you off, but just shout out to you and Jeffrey and I hate that I'm forgetting his name. You guys that do the wrap ups in Alabama, you guys do a really really great job of breaking that team down and discussing the team. 'Cause, I've watched several of y'all's videos because I'm a student of this. I'm really new to being on air and talking and stuff like that. So just seeing how comfortable you guys are. Actually, as you can see, I've gotten a lot more comfortable doing these things. So you guys provide a really good avenue for Alabama fans and to be informed. 'Cause anybody can get on the microphone and talk and
oh,
say a bunch of whatever for clicks, but you guys know the team. You understand it. You know the players and what they do and what you guys need. So you guys are a great source for that fan base.
I appreciate, man. And Yeah, we appreciate the magic you create, good buddy. And and that beard is definitely the key to create magic.
Ah, yes, sir. The strength is in the beard, baby. Beard. If you can grow one, grow it, man. Because trust me, once you get one, you will not want to lose it. I cut my beard one time, and that was in 2013. I cut it off, and I gave myself a goatee. And immediately after, well, I didn't do it. I had the barbershop, but immediately after I did it, I was in the mirror every 5 minutes,
Oh,
missing my beard, looking at that baby face. I mean, I looked good, but yeah, it was sad face emojis for about 2 months until it grew back to where I could line up and it came back. And that was when I was 29, and I'm 12 years strong. I have not cut it, and I will not ever cut it. No, sir.
there you go, man. And of course, you can check me out also now on SEC at the Voice College Football with Lucas Hill and myself, Mondays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, going over the latest news and notes on the SEC. And we're also joined by Tucker Harlan at Ballswire and Tennessee at the Voice College Football, Andrew Miller at Mississippi State at the Voice College Football, Josh Mahler at Oklahoma at the Voice College Football, much more. We go over it all. And you can check out Lucas and myself on the SEC Final Whistle for the post games on each of the games in all the SEC. And if you're checking and for more magic on what I've got going on Alabama at the Voice of College Football, SEC at the Voice of College Football, the Jacksonian here on Jackson Johnson 979, and on Lockdown West Virginia with Mountaineer Paul for Jackson's World College Football. Once, twice a week calls on the Paul Five Show. Check me out, JatsVOCFB, on @/Twitter, and on Instagram with threads, JatsJohnson543908, and on Jackson Johnson 97, Blue Sky Social, all Blue Sky Social, where my friend Mike DeBay, also my Nets guest, says the skies are blue. Some say the skies are gray. Some say the skies are overcast, but I say to each their own. And with that being said, like, comment, subscribe, click on the notification bell so you never miss no video whatsoever. And we will be seeing you soon. Stay safe, stay warm. It's cold out. Good night, everybody.
You matter,
You matter.
sir.